who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell.
Hello, Fenton. Welcome back.
And our sensational literary editor, sensation, the indescribable, non-pareil James St. James.
I'm loving that. Welcome
I'm
back,
so
Fenton. We've missed you.
I'm timing openings, introductions, and James's was a little longer this week, so next week.
So we're doing our usual thing. We're counting down the top 10 things this week that made us go,
Wow.
And so, without further ado...
Number 10.
Number 10,
Yes.
Taylor Swift, Reputation.
Oh, is it as fabulous as everyone is saying?
You haven't listened?
No, I haven't. I'm waiting for you to tell
Have
me
you
if I
heard
should.
anything?
Well, I've heard the singles.
He's ruling the airwaves because you have to buy the album. The singles are kind of streamable, but you have to buy the album, which I did, which I enjoy. But she is very talented. She works with some of the most talented people in the business. As much as you want to and I want to talk about Taylor Swift because as number one as she is, as dominating as she is, we love to hate her as people.
Yes, no, and that's what's so brilliant about Reputation. It's not so much an album as a concept that has been dropped, which we can all engage with, whether we don't need necessarily the album, but we can all like Reputation, where she is in her career now, what's behind the strategy, even not streaming it. It's all part of this sort of fantastic marketing SaaS know-how
thing that we're teasing, and it ended up being her, I think, at her Rhode Island home, I'm guessing, playing her piano for a bunch of girls listening, singing a song. And then she was on Saturday Night Live with Tiffany Haddish, who I just love. And Miss, what was the song she did on Saturday Night Live? She did,
Did she do
Ready for It.
Oh.
And she had the moves, like, it was a limited dance move.
But it was a little Beyonce formation.
Yes.
Okay.
But I thought it showed her off at her best.
You're not a fan.
I find myself singing along to every single damn single
That's
in
the
the
thing.
car, whether I love it or hate it.
You
and I
fight it.
I fight it, and then I give into it, and by month 2, I'm like...
Because I'm kind of into the singles now, because I've heard them more. I listen to the rest of the album, I'm thinking, well, it's not as good. I'm like, within 5 more listens, I will be following Taylor.
It doesn't have to be as good. That's the interesting thing about it. And she sold 700,000 the first day, I think, which is pretty amazing.
At a rapid rate that she is 10 years going on now,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, and she just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like Beyonce keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At what point does she ever go away?
Right, it's not an accident. And I want to sort of say, is Taylor? She started off when she was like Hathaway of pop stars.
Okay,
She's kind of the Gwyneth Paltrow of pop stars.
I can see that definitely.
She's kind of the Jennifer Aniston
but
of
wait a
pop
minute.
stars. Wait, one more.
Okay.
The Hillary Clinton of pop stars.
Well, now
maybe
you've
the
gone
most
too
maybe
far.
the most qualified pop star
I don't
to
know
ever
about
come
that.
down the pike.
One of the things that makes her so problematic to me is the fact that she knows that her fans are 16-year-old girls in red states, and she refuses to ever do any. She will never be our
Right.
resistor of the week. She will never, ever.
Are we saying she's a bit
panders.
Ivanka-y?
Yes, she panders to her base like nobody else on the planet.
She's never endorsed them. She's never issued any kind of
But she won't.
ambiguous...
But that's that same thing as
It's a
it's
silence.
a sin of omission.
Yes.
But it's hard when you're a big brand. I don't know. Maybe she'll hear Taylor, if you're listening. I think she's a big listener of our show. Denounce the Nazis.
Right.
Denounce the
I mean, not that hard to
denounce
do.
them.
I'm sure a lot of neo-Nazis go to Disneyland, but Disneyland doesn't say anything about them, does it?
But,
I bet if Disneyland was backed into a corner, they would denounce
Well,
them.
back him into a corner.
But I have to say, look what you made me do. That when we heard that little snippet when it first came out, it was like,
Yeah.
"Ew, this is
It
a
was my
flat,
home.
stupid
It's my
song."
home. My home.
or Right Said Fred.
Yes,
Or Right Said
it's
Fred,
a
yeah.
great song. I had it on a loop yesterday. Not that it's made me stick, and it's sort of like I brought a knife to a gunfight, but she has this guy who loves her so much. I love the way she moves my heart, and this is why we can't have nice things. Is all about Kim and
But come on, would you just stop with that already? Even Kim and Kanye are all.
It's already happened. Now you get to watch in the show 2 months later what's happening. It's sort of like Taylor Swift's albums like that. But there's something funny that oh my gosh. What's his name? His name is Louis Vertel, who I love, who is a writer, and he wrote on his Facebook, I'm stealing it, the original title of Taylor Swift, unless you've read and memorized every story about me. Ta-da!
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's funny.
I thought the Vox thing was pretty good too, because it says, from the parade of Taylor Swifts that Julie assembled at the end of the video for Look What You Made Me Do, to the inadvertent victim complex underlining of the title, Look What You Made Me Do.
Nobody plays victim more than Taylor.
What happened?
Is-
Hillary, look what you made me do, Taylor.
The perfect trailer for an hour of superficial petulance, where lyrical content essentially boils down to one of three things. People that Swift isn't terribly fond of, generic fantasy romance escapades, and her perceived put-upon sense of self.
That's
I mean, it's
very
not very
true.
nice, but it kind of...
You add some
know.
cats to that, and you've got my life.
Well, Reputation is available for purchase.
Number 9, I went to go see Murder on the Orient Express over the weekend. Well, it's funny because Murder on the Orient Express is one of the most famous murder mysteries of all time, up there with The Lady Vanishes and The Hound.
It's Agatha Christie, right?
It's Agatha Christie. I thought that it has one of the most famous endings of any whodunit ever.
I can't remember it.
Well,
right
that's
now.
just it.
I'm
I thought that
blanking.
every single person knew. I thought it was
Oh,
like
yes, I
superfluous.
do know.
Yes,
Thank
I thought
you.
it was a superfluous
I'm not
movie to
gonna say.
remake because I thought everybody
Everyone
in the
knew it.
and I went around the office and asked everybody, and not one person knew.
When was the original murder? It wasn't
Well-
1970.
Well, here's the thing.
Six,
It
right?
came out in the 1930s. The book came out in the
Right,
19. It was
right.
Agatha Christie, and then Sean Connery, John Gielgud, Vanessa Redgrave,
Every-
Anthony
It's always a
Perkins,
huge
Michael York,
star.
as
vehicle.
all those
Everyone
movies usually
was
are.
in it.
This one has a similar cast to it. It's got Michelle Pfeiffer. It's got Johnny Depp, who is just you hate him the second people hissed when he came on the
poor
screen.
Johnny.
The thing about this movie is that Agatha Christie movies, by and large, they're small, stagey, little drawing
Right,
room
that every high
things.
school does.
Yes, and it takes place in one room, and there's lots of tea sipping and lots of backstories and all that stuff. Well, they've decided that they need to open this up and make it lots of the train going through CGI mountains and going through tunnels, and like every 2 seconds that just you get, and it's huge John Williams score. And
Yes,
this,
but in an Amazing Race world, that's what you want.
but the fact of the matter is it's still just this talky little
shoot,
stagey little thing, and it doesn't work. It's sort of costumes, and it's to see the
a
cast.
deco fantasy,
It
right?
is.
I mean-
and so, and it really is. It's one of the most spectacular endings of any whodunit of all time, and that I'm not going to give it away, but it really
But
is.
it's the same ending, right?
It's the same ending.
It's the ending of the book,
Yes.
which is the ending of the film.
And nobody really gets to stand out in it. Nobody really. Michelle Pfeiffer has one really good scene, but it is. It's long. It's like 7
What?
hours. It feels you feel every.
If they just cut out all that footage of the train.
And there's the beginning scene that has nothing to do with anything, but it sort of establishes who Hercule Poirot is, and it takes place in Istanbul, and there's lots of swooping drone footage and cast of thousands, and it has absolutely nothing to do with anything, and they could have chopped off that 20 minutes and gotten straight into the
and
story.
who plays Hercule Poirot?
That's Kenneth Branagh, who also directed it, and he wears the wackiest mustache you have ever seen in your life. It's sort of a mustache on top of a mustache on top of another mustache, and it's fake, and you can see it looks like a wig with a lace front. You can totally see the lace front lines.
It sounds like very Sia or something. Something Sia would do.
It's really bananas. So, but this is like
So you're giving it 3 thumbs
I'm
to the
giving
left.
a thumb up and a thumb down and a thumb up and a thumb down, and I don't really know, but it's Michelle Pfeiffer, so there you go.
Thank you for doing that. for
Murder
us.
on the Orient Express is open in theaters nationwide.
Number 8.
This has inspired me, James, for my number 8, which
Yes.
is Voler Vogue Voyager.
What is that?
That is. Do you remember about a year ago I tried to get you to go see this Louis Vuitton exhibition that was here in L.A.?
Yes, the pop-up shop.
It's free. It's a free exhibition.
still there?
No, it's now in New York, and I was in New York last week, and I went to see it. It's at the Stock Exchange. It opened in December 2015 at
Wait,
the
the
Grand
actual
Palais
Stock Exchange,
in
or-
Paris, the old one, and it. It's the most. I mean, it's really interesting. What's happening in museums and exhibitions? They've gone very pop culture. Have you noticed? Like,
Yes.
there's
I don't mind that.
The Bowie and
it's
the-
great.
yes.
The Bowie,
Yes.
the Pink Floyd. There's a Club 57
The
one. at
Met
MoMA.
did that superheroes a few years ago. Yes.
And it's actually a brilliant idea because, in the age of Instagram, that's what you want. You get the people in. Ever in a long time. Which makes sense because Louis Vuitton, I think, where does it say? Oh, yes. In 2013, they had a $28 billion valuation. I mean, this is a big company with pots of money, and they spend it in this exhibition, which is basically just the history of Louis Vuitton.
And it goes back, what, to the 1890s?
1854, they started. A boxmaker walked hundreds of miles and became an apprentice.
With luxury brand on his mind.
And it was brilliant timing because this was around the invention of haute couture. And that's when you needed these gorgeous
steamer
boxes
trunks
to put your shit in.
Yes, because you were always on cruises, and so you needed the steamer trunks.
And this was the other very prescient thing. Exactly. It was really the beginning of the age of travel, too. You know, and what I didn't realize, and was really, I'd love to learn more, is that travel sort of began as these pseudo-scientific expeditions, very rich people. And so it wasn't just it was a jolly, but it also had sort of purpose behind it.
So people believed in science then, they just don't now.
And they went to Algeria, Mali, and Congo, and Louis Vuitton created all these amazing trunks and bags. And in fact, the steamer bag, which was in 1901, was basically it's basically the forerunner of today's gym bag. It's for your dirty laundry, and it was supposed to fold flat. It's absolutely fascinating. The other thing is like the age of the automobile. At first, cars didn't have roofs and you had to wear goggles, and this is where the handbag originated, because if you're a lady or just James St. James, you would need to have your vials and your whatnots in a little
something that wasn't going to get all dusty from
exactly.
So but then, you know, it's interesting because it also from 1901 to then to the 1930s, where it became part of branding of celebrity and rich people and things like that. And I think of all the images of Marlene Dietrich sitting on the stacks of the Louis Vuitton.
Yes, because they were
Claudette
all
Colbert.
handmade.
Yes,
and
it became a status symbol for the celebrity age.
Absolutely.
So do you have to do a lot of reading? How is it presented?
No, it's great. One of my favorite things about several favorite. You walk in, and there's a giant wall that is a video screen, but it looks like a subway station, and it's a train that leaves the subway station. You're standing in front of it as if you're on a platform, and in white tiles behind is Louis Vuitton, and it's the Stephen Sprouse Louis Vuitton.
I was going to say,
goes, we'll put it up on the Wow Report. It's absolutely stunning. And then you walk in, and they have trunks, and it's so funny because these trunks obviously did have one time a functional purpose, but now they're so valuable. The trunks are on display, and they put the trunks on top of the packing cases that they're transported around the world in, because you can't just put these trunks in the baggage card of a plane. You know, they're in these giant packing cases, so the trunks are displayed on that. And then they
It's funny that you need a trunk for a trunk now, because
you
the
need
trunks
a trunk for a trunk.
Yeah.
And it you know, for me, who's a sort of wrapping, packaging fetishist, I was just like,
Well, it's funny, too, because in the 1980s, in the 70s a little bit, in the 70s and 60s, 70s, it began a little, like, fusty and stuffy, and, like, it sort of lost its cachet. And then when Marc came along in the late 90s and reinvented it as a juggernaut. You think of the Murakami bag, you think of the Sprouse bag, you think of, who is the woman who has the exhibit at the Broad now?
The crazy person with the dots, whose name I can't recall.
Yayoi.
But what's brilliant about what Marc Jacobs did with the brand is it was referencing what they'd done before. A lot of the logos are old logos revisited. The grandson was a brilliant graphic designer and created these fantastic logos that Marc Jacobs revisited. And in the past, they had artists like Matisse did bespoke trunks for them. So he really did curate the brand and expand. It wasn't like a whole new.
He modernized it by taking it back to the future through the past.
It was so brilliant. It was absolutely. It's a fascinating exhibition. Something not in the exhibition was that Gaston Louis Vuitton, the brilliant person who I just talked about, who also introduced fragrances, he was a Nazi sympathizer.
Well, weren't they all at some point?
Well, I suppose. So that's Voler, Vogue, Voyager.
Louis Vuitton show.
The Louis Vuitton show at the
Stock Exchange.
The Stock Exchange in New York until January 7th, 2018. Really, go see it. It's completely free.
Love it.
And it's the most you'll just feel rich just walking around. Oh, and at the end, by the way, they have little ladies making handbags. You know,
for you to take
home? They
home?
don't give them to you.
Is your gift bag?
Like painstakingly making a handle. And we all know it's made out of plastic in China now, so, you know.
Is it?
No, of course it's not. Okay, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll carry on with our countdown. But first, a quick question. How many Agatha Christie titles, because she wrote Murder on the Orient Express, but how many Agatha Christie titles can you name? You're going to name as many as you can when we come back after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fedzin. I'm here with Tom and James and Blake.
Hi.
And so we're doing our question slightly differently this week. It's like, how many Agatha Christie wrote Murder on the Orient Express, which James just reviewed, but how many Agatha Christies can you name? Go, James!
Let's go around the table.
Okay,
One at a time.
okay. The mirror cracked,
Mousetrap.
and then there were none.
The 10 Little Indians.
That's the same thing, but I'll give it to
Is
you.
it?
It's the same way. It's just different versions of
I
different
didn't
names. The Lady Vanishes.
James wins.
Murder on the Nile. Murder on the Nile.
There's a Murder on the Nile?
Yeah, Murder on the Nile. There's
Murder, She Wrote.
No.
Oh, darn.
I already know
Murder
the
Under the
Mouse
Sun,
Road.
Evil Under the Sun, Evil Under the Sun with Sylvia Miles. Remember Michael York? You
Murder
remember
on the
that?
Orient Express.
Murder on the Orient Express.
Well, we
That was the one we just did. Like,
I'll tell you, she wrote 68 books. I do know that much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's carry on with our countdown of things that made us go,
Wow.
This week we've reached number 7.
Number 7.
I want to talk about Bridget Everett's Amazon pilot, Love You More.
I loved it.
Oh, good.
Oh, my God. I
Now-
thought it was so great.
Yeah, it's
But,
this time of year where Amazon gives us 3 pilots, and so you get to feel like an insider to show business and watch them and decide. And all 3 are good.
What
But
were the other 2?
The winner one is with it's called Sea Oak with Glenn Close, and it's sort of a mystery thing where she's this really docile 7-year-old woman who dies and comes back as a total bitch. What's to happen? I don't know.
I'm down for that.
Oh, it's totally good. And there's another one called The Climb, which is I don't know how
It's
to say
based
her-
on the Hannah Montana song.
when you Google it, that comes up. But it's set in Detroit. It's an office assistant who sees an extraordinary life through internet fame.
Okay.
But Bridget Everett, let me just
Yeah,
set,
please,
the,
set
set the
it up.
picture for you. She's in a bar. She's like, some guy's looking at her across the bar, and then this little person comes up, and he's sitting there, and she's getting him away. She's pushing him away, and so she talks to the other guy at the bar, and he's kind of hot, and he goes, "So, are you into big girls?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you into getting crapped on?" And so then she ends up going home, smash cut, to the little person who happens to have
an enormous dick.
big dick.
I mean,
And
it's
you
like-
see it, so you know.
Yes, it's not
and
like-
he's
and it's
on the
not
back
pro-
of Bridget Everett, who's this huge.
Right. It's not prosthetic. I'm sorry. I just wanted
No,
to
no,
say
I'm glad you
that.
did.
You guys, I've had sex with a little person once.
This might be the same person.
And it was huge. It was like one of the biggest penis I've ever encountered.
And in the course of them making love, they're interrupted by her roommate. The condom breaks, and the next morning, her morning after pill flies into the sink. So that's like the first 2 minutes.
But Bridget, this woman is she's the large comedian who that we
Yes.
know from Chelsea Handler.
I
and
saw her
things.
in Patty Cakes, and she was amazing.
She's
Yeah,
hysterical.
she is
And I
Yeah.
saw her in Amy
amazing.
Schumer.
She's sort of blousy and sort of like her.
And were you saying it? She just gets naked and everything, and she's like within. Well,
she's not afraid. She has no. And she's kind of gorgeous to look at
that.
too.
Gorgeous to look at, and with a warm energy. That's the thing.
Yes.
It's not that sort of funny, snarky, like, oh, you're funny, but I wouldn't want to like. She's funny and very. You just want to embrace
That's how it
her.
opens. It bops you over the head. You're like, oh my God, I'm
Right.
seeing so many things I've never seen before. Is it going to be, she's going to try to one up it. And then it falls into this really beautiful story. She is a counselor for kids with Down syndrome. And her roommate, I was saving this because is Lonnie Anderson.
Oh,
Who plays kind of like this sad 70-year-old woman whose daughters have abandoned her, and she's just trying to be happy, and she's wearing like sort of juicy sweats, and she's just so sweet and vulnerable.
how nice to see Lonnie again.
Looking amazing,
Really good.
and then in the middle, for no reason, and it's okay with me, it breaks into a music video as she's trying on bras,
Like a montage.
full-on
Full-on.
music video.
Okay.
And it's put it in the air, get those big juicy titties, put them in the air, and it's directed. This is why it's so good. It's directed by Bobcat Goldthwait.
Okay, who we love, longtime friend of WoW.
It's written by Michael Patrick King.
From
Sex and the City fame,
sure, yeah.
along with Bobcat, along with Bridget, and the story is also by my dear old pal Carolyn Strauss, who used to be at HBO forever and ever, and is on Game of Thrones, and she worked on like The Sopranos. Was that a show? And Sex and the City, just a few
How
good
can
shows.
it fail? I mean, it is really good.
Well, I
it is
had
really good,
seen
and
her-
I was shocked. I mean, like that first couple of minutes.
Yes.
I mean, you don't normally see that.
No, you see
Like-
boobs, you see penises, it's fantastic.
Well, I'm there.
And
It's
it
really
has
good.
a heart.
Yes, it's warm
That's what's
and friendly.
crazy.
Well, I saw her stand-up special on Netflix a few months ago, and she is absolutely one of the funniest women. And your mouth is hanging open at the things that she says, but she says it, like you said, with such warmth and love that she gets away with it.
It's hard for any entertainer these days to have a breakthrough. I think Bridget Everett is a huge breakthrough. I think the series could be the thing that
I agree. I
cements
think
it.
she's a breakthrough star, and I think this is going to be a breakthrough series. Love You More, currently streaming on Amazon Prime. If you don't have Amazon Prime, I recommend you get it.
Yes.
And go vote, because you vote for it, and if you vote enough, it'll be made into a series. Which it
Yes,
should be.
vote.
Number 6.
Well, James, what have we got for number 6?
Number 6, I saw Our Souls at Night over the weekend, which is
Remind me.
It's Netflix. You see the billboards all over town. It's Jane Fonda and Robert Redford.
Yes.
Okay,
It's the spooning movie.
it's the spooning. It's exactly what
What?
it is.
What do you mean?
spooning.
Wait, I know it's, but why?
The setup is that they're both widows. He's a widower, she's a widow, and they live next door to each other in this small town. And one night he gets a knock on his door, and it's her. And she's at the door, and she says, "Look, these nights are really hard to get through. I just miss having someone next to me in bed. We don't have to have sex. Would you just come over and spend the night with me every night?" And he's like sort of taken aback by it, and he's sort of this flustery old man, and he finally says, "Yes, I will." And they go over, and every night they just spend the night in bed together, talking and sort of spooning, and it's a way to get through the nights. And it's just a very gentle.
Why does that sound so appealing to me?
It is so. It
I
is.
lost my mojo. I think that sounds so good.
It is because
It's even sweeter than Love You More, right?
Yes.
It's like-
but throughout the movie, they begin to talk to each other, and they spend
I
days
bet
together.
they do end up having sex.
Well, I'm spoiler alert, but
a little person with a huge dick comes in.
but one of the interesting things about this is that Jane Fonda's 79, Robert Redford is 81. This is the fourth time they've starred together. They were in Electric Horseman, Barefoot in the Park, and something called The Chase back in the 60s. So they're old friends. They have this really great chemistry together. It sounds like a stage play. It was actually a novel, but. The interesting thing, I'm sorry, was that Jane is now older than her father was in On Golden Pond.
Wow.
And that this is something that is sort of similar to On Golden Pond, where it's sort of the idea of like, how do we maneuver our last years
Yes.
on this planet together? She has a son who drops off the grandson, and it's sort of the same plot as On
Yeah.
Golden Pond, where you have different generational takes on things like that.
I wanna see it so badly
It
now.
does. It has sort of a sad ending.
So it's not. It's a one-off. It's a movie.
It's a movie, yes,
Okay.
but it doesn't sort of.
On
It's not a
Golden
happy.
Pond was one of my favorite movies of all time.
It has that same vibe, and it's that, like I said, it's that same thing where you keep thinking like Jane is now the same age as Katharine Hepburn, and you know,
You old poop.
you know.
Can I-
But she's vibrant and she's fun, and she's sort of like a kooky '60s woman, and she's the catalyst for this to
Yes.
happen. But it's a beautiful, gentle thing, and for somebody who sleeps alone, and
James, I'm coming over
James.
tonight.
I know.
Look at my Amazon Prime.
You know what? I have two things for you. I have a life-size pillow that you can
Like
wrap
one of the
yourself
Japanese
around.
body pillows, yes.
and a gravity blanket, and you'll be sorted. You
That's
won't
all I
I'm staying home
need.
then.
Right, and maybe we should make a show out of it. His Soul at Night.
James at night.
my soul
Now
at
that
night.
is worth paying for.
So that Our Souls at Night is currently streaming on Netflix.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So for my number 5,
Number 5.
oh my God.
What?
I have started reading The Vanity Fair Diaries by Tina Brown.
Oh.
Tina Brown, of course, was the editor, really, of Vanity
yeah.
Fair. Graydon Carter succeeded her and really turned the magazine into a commercial success. But it was Tina Brown who rescued the disastrous relaunch of Vanity Fair in
And
in the early 80s.
Yeah.
and brought sort of an artistic element to it that was from the 1920s
I
and
think that's-
30s.
I
It
think
was
that's-
a must-have magazine.
Yeah.
Before the internet, you had to run out.
We are talking about the golden
Yes.
age. We're talking about peak magazine time,
Yes.
right? This was the time a glossy magazine was the last word.
Yes.
And she literally, I guess like the Judith Krantz novel, I'll Take Manhattan, she came to Manhattan and she just took it over. And she rescued Vanity Fair. And, she talks about the other thing about Tina is she is a diarist. She has kept a diary her whole life.
Is she a personal idol of yours?
As have I.
Yeah, I was going to
Have you
say.
kept a diary?
I have diaries from the 80s, but I didn't keep it up.
I just have
And-
Facebook posts.
And she went to Oxford, where she read English, and she wrote for ISIS, which was the Oxford University magazine, as did I.
Thank you.
And she kept a diary.
But
as
Benson
did
has
I.
worked with ISIS?
Right, I know.
but answer me, though.
Unfortunately named, right? Yes.
Is she a personal idol of yours? Is she
Well,
somebody
no,
that you...
I have
Or
sort
a
of
frenemy?
I am filled with admiration and also just want to tear her to pieces.
Competitive
it's,
angst, kind of.
It's it's jealousy. It's petty
Sure.
jealousy. I'm a petty person. It's hard for me to love.
It's the first step. It's the first step.
Here's the thing about Tina Brown is she was destined to succeed. Nothing was. You know what? She's like Madonna. Nothing was going to get in her way. And what's amazing is in her diary, she makes it all seem accidental. She didn't really
Of
intend to
course,
do this. But of course,
Everything just
that
fell
is-
into her lap.
That is the sort of the noblesse of famous people. They're obliged to make it seem as if it was never their intention. But the moment she heard about Vanity Fair, you knew she was going to get that job. And in fact, after leaving Oxford, she landed a job at the Sunday Times, met the editor, slept with the editor, married the editor. She wrote for the Sunday Times. She was commissioned features. Features were commissioned. One of those features I remember reading as a schoolboy, and it was a big spread of Tina Brown and her diaries. And I thought, you better watch that bitch. She is going places. Of course, in the diaries, she always maintains that she was reluctantly, I never meant to,
I've heard her do interviews. She's sort of like a recluse. She just assumed to be
Yes,
home,
yes.
under the duvet.
Didn't want to go to parties and was just really being in New York to study it, to write a novel
Yes.
or, but she really did crack it. You're right about the arty thing. It's just like she said at one point, a celebrity cover to move the newsstand, juicy news narrative, A-list literary piece, visual escapism, revealing political profile, fashion, and if we nail each of those per issue, it's going to work. And that was, what she referred to all the time was the mix. It was all about the mix. It was like, I suppose, being the doorman at a nightclub, letting the right people in to create the right mix. And for her, the key word was always sexy. It was always about sexy. Whereas I think the misapprehension was when they launched Vanity Fair at the beginning of the Reagan era, when they relaunched it, they thought sophisticated was sort of New Yorkery and fusty and academic.
No.
They didn't get that the pop culture.
I remember they put Camille Paglia on the cover in 1981 when nobody knew who she was, and things like
It
that.
was too cerebral.
Yeah,
And Tina Brown completely understood where the culture was heading, what it was about.
what she did, it's sort of like what Louis Vuitton, we were talking about, what Mark did, was it harkened back to the golden age of the magazine in the 1920s
Yes.
and 30s when it was Dorothy Parker and
Right.
Robert Benchley and Jean Genet and, Cocteau and all those people were a part of it, and Dali, and, that's what made it. It
So
was
there you go. That's the Vanity Fair Diaries by Tina Brown, available now on Amazon. So we have to take a quick break, and I have a question for you. Actually, is this too easy?
I hope so, because the last one was too hard.
Who was the first contract writer Tina Brown hired at Vanity Fair? Do you think you know the answer to that?
I don't know.
maybe kind of.
Well, okay. How about who is the most famous cover of Vanity Fair?
No. the
No,
first
no,
one.
Okay,
First one, yeah.
okay, great. You're listening to the Wow Report on
Don't
Radio
dumb it
Andy.
down for us. We're perfectly capable of naming a writer.
Well, we'll see about that, won't we? This is me who can't even name a single Agatha Christie title. Okay, it's the Wow Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM. So we're counting down the top 10 things that make us go, wow! I'm here with Tom and James and Blake, and we were just talking about Tina Brown, the Vanity Fair Diaries. So the question was...
What was her first contract writer? The person that she
the first
hired?
person she hired as a writer.
I'm going to say Dominic Dunn.
I'm going to say Dominic Dunn.
And you're right, it was Dominic Dunn.
There you go.
And then your other question was, what's the most famous cover?
Yes, because that was
And I'm
too
going to
easy.
say it has Princess Diana on it.
Oh, I was going to say maybe the Jackie O when she died.
No, I'm going to say, and I don't know, Demi Moore, pregnant.
Oh,
Naked and
yeah.
pregnant Demi Moore.
Fenton is right.
I hate when
It's
Fenton's
been
right.
copied by different stars. I know Britney did
Yes,
a version of
I can
it.
do it right now. I've
Everybody
gained enough
does.
weight that I
know,
can do it.
right?
So we're counting down, and we've reached number 4. Tom.
Number 4.
Well, in a week, that had the shocking, heartbreaking news that People's Sexiest Man Alive is Blake Shelton.
What? He's not even the sexiest man on The Voice.
GQ made it up because they have different covers for their of the years, and they have Gal Gadot as the Wonder Woman of the year. They have Stephen Colbert as the Bad Hombre of the year.
Okay.
They have Kevin Durant, who's a basketball player, I had to check, as the Champion of the year. But as the Citizen of the Year, they have Colin Kaepernick.
Be still my heart.
And it's funny because he's been like, Colin obviously is the one, take a knee. They were saying how in 2013, Colin was on the cover of GQ before for being one of the best players in the world. Yeah. And now he's on the cover because he can't get hired by a team. And he's been relatively silent, right? He's been about action. He's been about doing this thing. And this whole, movement has come from behind him. So he agreed to do the cover to get hopefully the message back on track, which I think we all know the message. But somehow, if you hear the news, it's all about disrespecting the flag, disrespecting the vet. He's bringing attention to a problem about police brutality, which is real, which is a real problem for especially for men of color. So thank God he's there.
And he started something that really has caught fire, right? I mean, a great personal cost and personal sacrifice.
He's so handsome, and he's such a good man, such a really good. Right. I do know that my friend Jenny, the former genitalia, who is in charge of the girls' club of the Lower East Side, he comes down at least once a month, and he gives his time to the girls. He donates and everything. He donates his time and his money. He's and does it not for any publicity. He just shows up and does it.
And they compare him to Muhammad Ali, who was against the Vietnam War, which history says he was on the right side. Yeah. And at the height of his career, much like Colin, he was not allowed to play. And during that time, Muhammad Ali used to stay in peak condition. He was training all the time, not knowing when it would be over. And there was talk of Muhammad Ali running through the street, and he was the champion of the streets. The kids would come out of all over and run with him. So they chose to do Colin's photo shoot. I know it's GQ and it's fancy, but like in Harlem, and he's surrounded by children.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous picture, isn't it? Yeah.
And I'm not trying to belittle it by saying how gorgeous he is, because he's not conventionally good looking, but obviously he's in amazing shape. He's incredible ink, which I don't always like ink on people, but in his face and his kindness and his hair.
He has the big hair, and then sometimes they're in the braids.
He's pretty spectacular.
And he knows I could just sit on that nose.
And they have a lot of other important people commenting on him and saying how important he is. But Harry Belafonte, who is a leader in the civil rights movement, who was marched side by side with Martin Luther King, said, "In my 90th year of life, to see people like Colin Kaepernick have gotten the message and carrying the cause forward is the greatest reward I could ask for."
That current issue of GQ featuring Colin Kaepernick is on newsstands now. So James, number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, I'm a little conflicted about number 3. Liz Smith passed away.
I'm glad you're going to talk about this.
Yeah, the doyenne of gossip. When I moved to New York, there was the 3. There was Susie, who did High Society. There was Cindy Adams, who did like New York characters and like gangsters and dictators and
only New York kids.
Only in New York kids, Borscht Belt comedians, and then Liz, who was really just Hollywood.
Yes, the mainstream of them all. I think had the biggest.
She started in New York Newsday, I believe, and then she went to the Daily News and eventually the Post. I remember at the time, Michael Musto and Michelangelo Signorelli, 2 great friends of mine, they would rail against her every single day. After the clubs, we would go get the Post and read her column, and they were furious with the fact that she was this lesbian who kept every other celebrity in the glass closet.
Yes.
She, Jodie Foster, Jan Wenner, Calvin Klein, David Geffen, Annie Leibovitz, Malcolm Forbes.
Wow, that's quite a list.
But they were all friends of hers, and she would take every day she would talk about their heterosexual relationships, and she was famous for pushing the narrative that they were
people's
straight.
Secrets.
Yeah, and
she was more of a PR machine than she was like a journalist.
But she herself was later. She came out as bisexual in her 80s and 90s. But she had a girlfriend, Iris Love, who every single column, every damn column, famous archaeologist Iris Love was there, and famous. And you're like, girl, ain't no famous archaeologists except for Indiana Jones. Get over it. And so she would push her friends and everything like that. Michael Musto just did something for W, which he would talk a lot about his anger towards her that never really dissipated. He still sort of hangs on in that way that Michael Musto
But did
does.
he said that we needed someone like her to we knocked down the celebrities and we needed her to build them back up.
Oh, is that what he said?
I thought that's what he said. But,
I did. Michelangelo Signorelli wrote something, and he was a little. He was sort of kinder. He was saying that like he was glad that she found some peace in later life with who she was, and that he was able to forgive her.
So hard to look back at generations of gay people who live in such a different world than we do now, and it doesn't give them permission to have been lazy about it, but self-loathing and all that kind of stuff is real. Not knowing and being ambitious and trying to get ahead in a world where you don't know that coming out would let that happen.
And she
that's
was
a horrible
in the 40s,
choice to
50s,
make.
and
That's
60s, which was a
horrible
whole
choice to
different
make.
time. I
Yeah.
agree with that. Unfortunately, what Michelangelo's argument has always been about outing is that keeping somebody like Kevin Spacey in the closet perpetuates the bad that he can do.
Right.
And
he-
you may be right, and we may be there, and we're opening up doors. I met her once, Liz Smith, when I was dating Bradley, and who was a dear friend of hers. And I think Malcolm Forbes, she'd write about them a lot as like love interests. And Cynthia McFadden was there with Liz Smith, the newswoman, who very presumably was her girlfriend. That's how I read
Cynthia
it.
McFadden was Katharine Hepburn's girlfriend.
Right. Well, I think Catherine was gone, and it seemed very much like they were a couple. I could be wrong. And it was just funny because she was there. She was lovely. But I read the article, and what she reported was accurate. But it was like a watercolor painting of the afternoon. Like, La Liz toe-headed children were splashing as the pools. Liz, looking better than ever, came sashaying down. It was like they were kind of
Our food and you make it look delicious and yummy, and then it's like, what is wrong with this picture?
There's actually like ants.
Liz Smith, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
my God.
Number 2.
What do we got?
Number 2.
It's the end of the world.
Every week.
Every week.
Here we go.
And yet we come back every week.
I was just at the what's that place
Where
called?
was I?
The CDC. No, the disease place.
It was like in a museum
No.
show.
I thought he was like a patient there.
Could be. They have just elevated to level 2 this bubonic plague observed and very serious.
And when they're screaming and the sky is falling, shit's really worse than you think it is.
Well, right. The CDC alert level 2 is you should take extra precautions. And basically, actually,
I've been touching James the whole show.
Well, I did just get back from Madagascar.
You went there for lunch on Tuesday.
Is that why you were late? You were walking,
I was playing with the lemurs.
Well, so there's this outbreak, and so I had to go to the DailyMail.com because just the CDC wasn't giving it to me. The Daily Mail's
Break it
like,
down.
we're all going to die, and it's going to spread around the world. 2,000 people have been struck down so far. But here's the thing. When it says struck down, actually 165 have died, which matters,
Yes.
but it's not 2,000
But the point of this is that the strain is non-resistant to any sort of thing that anybody can fix.
Well, that's the thing. So you got the bubonic plague, the Black Death, which killed everyone in the 1300s.
And all you have to do is just scrub your house,
But
and you'll be
really,
fine.
much worse, is pneumonic plague, which can spread by sneezing, like a cold spreads, and that.
And it's resistant to like HIV to any time you try and fix it.
Actually, no, you can cure it with
Blake,
antibiotics.
you don't look nervous by
You
this.
can.
What?
You feel
can
fine.
Cure it with
Well, I
antibiotics.
kept reading that this new thing was resistant.
I mean, there is a fear that it could, mutate and then prove to be resistant, and there's also a fear that it will get to the mainland and then spread.
So wait, all you have to do is take antibiotics? Why are we worried about this?
This is correct. Yes, that's all you have to do. Okay, but look, I'll just go.
I'm not gonna
120
I'm
people
still not
and you
gonna
can
touch
take
James anymore.
Going back
You
to
take
the
a Z-Pack and it's 120 people and you're good to go.
Okay, going back to the CDC website, it says avoid close contact with seriously ill people, especially people who are coughing up blood, James.
Mentally ill is part of it, or
And
emotionally.
avoid bug bites.
I did. I was just reading about it today.
Oh my gosh. Zombie ants. Just
Wait a minute, it's this thing where the pathogen takes
Yes.
over the muscles,
Yes.
but not the brain, and
Yes.
it uses the ants like a puppet,
Yes.
and it makes them crawl up a stalk,
Yes.
attach itself to the leaf, and then a giant stalk goes right through his brain.
bursts out of his head. It's just like out of Alien.
And if they
So-
start doing this to humans, what's going to happen?
Exactly. That's exactly my point. The fungus makes the ant leave the colony, go onto the forest floor,
But
and then
it's like a
attach
puppet.
itself upside down to a leaf.
All the while, its little ant
then it
brain
does-
is
and it
saying,
does- and-
please no, make
Right,
it stop.
because this fungus has grown like a Borg. It's like a sort of new viral network through the ant's body that is controlling it and making it do this. And it leaves the brain intact.
So
And
so the little, like I said, the
when
little
the
ant brain
ant-
is saying, stop, stop, stop.
and the ant dies, and then it bursts out of the brain.
Oh, wait, I thought it was still alive
into
with
a
a bird.
spore, and that spreads more.
And the whole time the spider's saying, "Look what you made me do. Look what you made me
But
do."
zombie ants, and if that mutates into something,
thank
you know,
you.
then we're going to have
Thank
zombies
you.
everywhere.
Guys, we have someone very special joining
do,
us.
yep.
So it's a wow celebrity. It's a viral. You know, it's in the. It's
Love him, worship him.
Well, I
So
don't
don't
know
go
who it
away.
is. I'm excited.
Yes, you're gonna be very surprised and excited.
This is the one.
Things that make us go wow.
Hey, well, it's number one.
Oh, my God.
Number 1.
Our number one is Wow Presents Plus, our new streaming service, starring among many other fabulous people.
Chris Crocker.
Can you believe it? Oh my gosh.
Such a good star.
And the show is called The Sip.
The Sip with Chris.
But before I will interrupt you, but we have to explain a little bit
yeah.
what
Right.
Wow Presents Plus is.
Because it's the new digital way.
It's the
of
future,
streaming.
yes. Uh-huh.
It's Netflix for demented souls who like the kind of content that we like.
And you can get it on your computer, your Roku, your Apple TV, your computer screen, any place that has an image, you can watch it.
Anytime, anywhere. If you're in a cave, you can just.
If you're
punch a
if
button.
you're on the subway, if you're in a K-hole, if you're running down the street, no
And-
matter what, you can watch Wow Presents content.
And before the haters can hate, Wow Presents, which is the free YouTube channel,
Yes.
Presents Plus, costs how much a month?
It's $3.99. Cool.
And
And
free.
the other thing, you know, in it there's like right now there's about 150 hours of content, but additionally we have all our documentaries, a huge library.
Everything from the Wow Vault going back to the 90s. There's things like The Last Beekeeper, Eating Hairline, and really bad lighting.
So Chris, tell us, what's your show?
Like Sip with Chris is basically, you know, I'm inspired by Wendy Williams.
As
except,
are we all, sure.
You know, even the fainting. And, you know, basically the tagline is
Like you have different topics that you do,
We're
or is it
doing-
just you ranting and going off on your
there's
beautiful
always-
little tangents?
Well, there's always going to be ranting with me, but it is going to be very topical. We're going to talk about like.
Now, you know, because you've had quite a journey yourself over the past 10 years, I would
Right.
say.
It has been 10 years, right?
It's
You've been in
been
the
10
public
years.
eye since Leave Britney Alone. It's been 10
And
years.
before that, even, you know, I mean, there
but
was...
that was the moment.
It was, but I was a fan of just some of your early things.
Thank you. Well, I was a fan of. I was watching Party Monster when I was like 14 in the South. You know, them paying for Wow Plus because when I started YouTube, there wasn't even a way for us to monetize anything.
right.
You know, I was one of the first ones to get the viral videos, and we couldn't even, you know, make anything off of it. So if there's people out there that want to support and get full access, they're spending more money on their coffee a day. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's
Right,
true.
true.
It's
Once a
less than
month.
the cost of a latte.
And it is, and people are in the comments saying, why,
Exactly.
why? And I get it. Who wants another service? Who wants people twisted content alive? And that's what World of Wonder is trying to do. We're a production company. We're not a broadcaster, but because of the internets, we're able to try this thing. And I kudos to Randy and Fenton for investing. It's not, you know, it's a risky thing.
Right, but I think it's like great to have it all in one place, just easily summoned up without a lot of the other clutter that you get.
There's
And
Right.
it is only, the first month is free, and
Yeah.
then if you use your code word James, you get it.
You come over.
So much amazing talent that just people aren't willing to take the risk on, or it's not right for their brand. Well, we're our own brand, and you are our brand, and we're making programming for you.
So we're very excited to have Chris in the family because it's like Me at the Zoo is one of my favorite documentaries.
thank
it
you
was
so
so
much.
great, and
And you have been a part of the WoW family, I
You
think,
have.
for almost 10 years. When we first reached out to you after...
Was it 10 years ago we did our Britney, Just Britney?
yeah, the
art
art
gallery.
show.
Uh-huh. That was in
Yes, that's right.
2007.
That was so
fall
legendary.
2007.
You were here.
Uh-huh.
Delta was big. Britney, right? We had drag queen.
We had Barrettney, who was Blake, who was Barrettney, if you
Yeah,
remember.
I just started. Me and Chris started at WoW at the same
That
time.
was his first month.
and like TMZ came by. It was a happening. And Perez was here. It was a big time.
You know, but also just Chris, I do want to say that we've talked about this before last time you were in town. Is there's sort of there's like a calm about you now. There's sort of like everything about you sort of feels like it's sort of working in conjunction with each other, and you seem very happy and in a different place right now.
Well, that was a hard time because I was like, a teenager literally from Tennessee, and overnight I'm getting reality show offers and I'm here and there, and I kind of lost myself in people's idea of me, but now I know how to like channel it more, you know, and just use it when I need to be entertaining.
Yes.
You know, and not have a breakdown. So.
I love that.
But it has been an amazing journey, and I do think, you know, I'm sure you're sick of people talking about just leave her alone, but what an iconic moment that was, and what a great way you've like built on that, you know.
I'm going to ask you something really corny. Will you say to the haters, leave WoW Presents Plus alone? Would you mind?
Leave WoW Presents Plus alone.
Thank you.
But wait a minute, actually don't. Go and get it. Like they need to actually go get it.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
So every week we also do a resistor of the week. We're living in these sort of awful in Trumpistan, I like to say. So
Nice.
who's our resistor of the week this week?
It's not a person.
Okay.
It's a company, and it is, help me with the name of it, it is the
Cards Against Humanity.
Cards Against Humanity. Did you hear about this?
Oh, I heard that they were buying up lots of land.
They bought a little sliver of land on the American-Mexican border in order to thwart the wall from happening.
That is incredible.
Well, I wonder if maybe we should move our offices down to the border right there.
We should broadcast next time from the little. I'm imagining. I don't
That's a
know what
good
it is.
idea.
But it's a little tiny.
It's like a
slice.
parking lot.
And they've hired a battery of lawyers to make sure that because the government can use eminent domain to just force you to compulsorily sell the land to
Yeah.
the government. So they're going to fight the government tooth and nail. So there's going to be a hole in this wall. Actually, I mean, is the wall frankly going to get built? Yeah.
Well, I like having a
It's
little
gr-
assurance.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Thank you, Cards Against Humanity.
Well, and in
That's
fact, they
amazing.
have a website called Cards Against Humanity is going to save America, and they have an FAQ. And so it's like one of the FAQs is, what are you saving America from? And they say, injustice, lies, racism, the whole enchilada. And they say, I don't like
love
that you're
enchiladas.
getting political. Why don't you just stick to card games? And the answer is, why don't you stick to seeing how many Hot Wheels cars you can fit up your asshole?
All right.
Yes. Well, that's all we have time for today. Start your free trial of WoW's new streaming service, WoW Presents Plus. You go to www.wow-presents.com. Original series from Valentina Detox, Bob the Drag Queen, and
Chris Crocker.
yes.
love that
Trixie
little
and
voice.
Katya. Tune in Trixie and Katya show on Viceland
Yes.
Wednesdays.
Love them.
Real Estate Wars, Thursday, 10 p.m. on Bravo.
Yes.
$1 Million Listings, LA is back. Thursdays at 9 p.m. on Bravo. So those are all the WoW shows you can watch this weekend. Oh, it's just in RuPaul's DragCon LA, May the 11th, 12th, 13th at the Los Angeles Convention Center.
3 whole days.
You've been to DragCon, right?
Never been up.
I've
always wanted
Oh my
to.
God.
Well, you
I
got
can get you $2 off your ticket this year because you work here.
Can you please?
Well, you've got to have a booth this year. You've got to do something.
Yes.
We'll see if they like the show. I'd love to.
Come on
Yeah.
down.
Thanks for tuning into the WoW Report on Radio Andy Sirius XM. Listen anytime on the Sirius Radio app or watch anytime on the WoW Report. Same time, same place next week. Kitty cats. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow. Bye.